what an amazing fight. That was insane. Dustin Poirier defeats Michael Chandler by a third round submission, something that a lot of people did not expect to happen. A couple things right off the bat. Number one, the odds were completely wrong, as we talked about in the prediction video. There was no way Chandler was just going to get run through by anybody in the lightweight division, to be honest. There's no one that really seems that can just clear-cut beat Chandler and show superiority over him. He is dangerous against anybody in the world for many different reasons. I mean, the guy is so athletically gifted. He has a warrior's mentality. If only you could plug a controller in him, he would be unstoppable even at his 36-year-old age. But Michael Chandler is Michael Chandler for a reason. He comes out there to put on an exciting fight, give the fans a show, and even though he would make those questionable decisions, such as the high amplitude slams that he didn't really need to go for, or swinging haymakers instead of precisely picking off his shots down the center line, and even Dustin Poirier admitted that straight punches beat looping punches, Weasel Watcher confirmed, and if he were to put his punches down straight, he would have probably had him out, and that would have happened in the first round, mind you. Imagine Chandler, instead of looping his punches for haymakers with all of his power, instead put punches down the pipe at him. A first round knockout against Dustin would have been an insane result, but oftentimes it's just not what he's going to do. He has some intelligent moments in the fight, for an example in the second round where he had Dustin backing up from the kicks to the body and stuff. Dustin really had to respect the power, the sheer explosiveness that Chandler presents, and he felt it, so he definitely knew to respect it. It caused him to backstep away from some of that output, and off of that, Dustin thought there was going to be some punches coming up to his head, so Chandler went to his wrestling. Had that double leg, picked him up and slammed him, but see, here's the thing, he didn't need to pick him up, turn him, and slam him as hard as he can. Chandler's putting so much effort into everything he does when he should be a lot more efficient with it. And it's a reason why he ultimately gassed out in the third round. And when he's on top, I mean, I'm very curious to see what the scorecards look like, but I'm pretty sure the second round should be in a 10-8. Holding Dustin Poirier down, landing big ground and pound shots, and I'll get to the dirty stuff, I will, because that was a big part of the fight. He even got the back at one point, went for the rear naked choke. Dustin was a lot of trouble in that second round. Dustin even tried to go for that same switch to reverse the position that he tried even on Khabib, but I just don't think that technique is for him. It fails on him every single time, and it actually makes the position worse for him. And what it seemed like in the first round from Dustin was he was just trying to hold himself back a bit, don't do anything too crazy, allow Chandler to expend his own energy, which is 100% what he's going to do in every single fight. So allow him to punch himself out and just use intelligent defense to guard, deflect, and even counter whenever those are available. And with Chandler throwing right hands with all of his might, there's going to be a lot of opportunities that if Dustin's able to defend the shots and get Chandler to overextend, he's going to be able to counter him, and that's exactly what he did. It's exactly what we talked about in the prediction video as well. Dustin's success on the feet is going to come off his counter shots, allowing Chandler to overthrow his own punches. Now, why did Dustin get hit? Why was Chandler's output getting to him? Here's when we talk about the dirty stuff. It came off a headbutt, and I think this headbutt was accidental as he went down under, lowered levels, and brought his head back up. I don't think he meant to hit Dustin with the headbutt, but you could definitely see it affected him. And from there, that's when Chandler was able to land his punches immediately afterward. One headbutt and then one punch from Chandler is enough to change the trajectory of a fight, no matter who he's going up against, even someone as tough as Dustin. And Dustin admitted that when he was getting hit against the fence, he was very hurt. But we go from there to when Chandler got it to the ground, he was grabbing onto the glove multiple times. He even fish hooked him on purpose. Like, I understand accidental eye pokes and accidental low blows, but fish hooking is just nasty. That's a dirty tactic, man, and it worked because Dan Miragliotta didn't do anything about it. I don't know if he saw it, but we were able to see it on the camera, and you see Dan's head is positioned exactly where he would be able to see the fish hook clearly. If you don't know what a fish hook is, it's just putting your fingers on someone's mouth and then pulling, right? So Chandler was doing that to pull Dustin's head up to expose his neck for the rear naked choke. And he almost won the fight doing that. Imagine if the fight ended. We have to look back at the replay, and then it probably would have been a no contest. Or even a disqualification, mind you. And not only that, then we talk about the back of the head shots that were very blatant. Dan was right there, even warned him. It's like, after all this stuff that's happened already, how can you even give any more warnings? This reminds me back in the day when Herb Dean was reffing Conor versus Khabib, and Conor had all those dirty tactics, and Herb justified it by saying they were all different from each other. He wasn't doing the same thing over and over again, so you could only warn for each individual technique. If that's a rule, that's a horrible one, because I could just low blow you, then poke you in the eye, then hit you in the back of the head, and then fish hook you, and I'll never get a point deducted for this. So I could go down the laundry list of all the dirty moves, and I will never get a point deducted as long as I do each of them once. That is so crazy, and absolutely impacted the fight. I mean, getting hit in the back of the head is going to discombobulate somebody. And Chandler had a very good position. I mean, he had like a modified Dagestan handcuff on the other side. He was holding Dustin's arm backwards. His shoulder was not able to rotate for him to get out of that position on his back, right? He's on his side, and that's how Chandler was able to keep punching him. Dustin needed to get on his back. And that wasn't like the only filthy thing about the fight. There was also that moment where it was nasty. How should I say this? There was a leak on top of Dustin, and then later you saw part of that leak escaping out of or departing out of Dustin's oral cavity. The man is a different breed. To be able to go through something like that and keep his mental state intact, he was very cerebral and very calculated almost the entire fight. And it eventually led up to the rear naked choke, where Chandler has different kind of human strength. I don't even think you could categorize it as human. He went in for a single, trying to get into a high crotch, was turning the corner, but Dustin did a very good job of leaning his weight to the side and caused Chandler's posture to collapse. Well, him, unbalanced, still was able to get under Dustin and squat him up, where he was almost doing the splits on the ground. He lifted him up in the air, slammed him, went for the back, and he overrolled for it. He put way too much effort, and this is exactly where it actually hurt him in the fight. You need to be precise not only with your punches and stuff, but with the effort you exert, because sometimes you can overdo it, and that's exactly what happened here. He rolled too much, and Dustin, with beautiful technique, pried open one of the legs during the roll, which shows extreme awareness, and able to settle on top of Chandler, landed one good elbow, and from that elbow, Chandler went from holding on one of Dustin's arms to protect himself to, I gotta get out of this position. So what does he do? He taps into his wrestling instinct, and it probably also had to do with the fact that he was exhausted by this point, so it's much easier to tap into your instincts, even if they're not the right time to tap into them, when you are exhausted. And look at the difference with how fast Chandler went for the back and how fast Dustin got the back. Dustin did not exert too much energy, but it was extremely fast. Like he said, he lassoed his leg around the body and hooked it immediately. It was one of the fastest back takes I've ever seen without expending much energy. And he finished where Charles Oliveira couldn't. Does that confirm that Dustin's a better Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu artist than Charles? No, not necessarily, as we seen how their fight went. But it was a great thing to see from Dustin Poirier, who actually became the first man ever to submit Michael Chandler. I bet that's a stat that nobody knew about. Chandler's never been submitted before, and he fought some high-level grapplers throughout his entire career. Only Dustin was able to submit him, man. It just shows that Dustin isn't just a boxer. He isn't just a striker. The guy is not only good, but elite everywhere. So amazing win from Dustin. An action-packed, exciting performance by both guys. Even Chandler used a lot of dirty techniques. The guy is super fun to watch regardless. I mean, he will always be a fan favorite because he brings these kind of fights in expense of his chances of winning a fight through technical means. Some will say it shows lack of fight IQ, but you get what you pay for whenever you watch Chandler. You know what you're getting, and it's always going to be something you want to tune in. So after this fight, it's kind of interesting. It was back and forth, so it doesn't really give out who the number one contender is going to be. There's Charles, there's Dariush, and then there's Dustin. Two of those guys are going to have to fight each other. The other one maybe waits out or fights a Fiziev if Gaethje's not coming back to fight. I personally want to see Charles versus Dariush, and I wouldn't mind seeing Dustin versus Fiziev. Those are some excellent fights by the time that Islam fights Volkanovski over there in February. But any of these guys could get a title shot. You could see Dariush get a title shot. You could see Dustin get a title shot. Anything could really happen, and honestly, there is no bad fight. They're all going to be pretty fun to watch. And as for Chandler, he was number 5. He lost to the number 2 contender. He shouldn't drop that much because it was very close. In fact, the only thing that should probably change is him in Fiziev's spot. Fiziev might be number 5, Chandler number 6, or they just keep their spots. I would like to actually see Chandler step down in competition a little bit and fight RDA. They both took a lot of damage in their fights. They both are probably going to take some time off, and two veterans going at it, a former UFC champion versus the former Bellator champion around the same time actually. It would be excellent to see these two go at it. That's the fight I would put together. So I hope you guys enjoyed the breakdown, and if you did, make sure to give this a thumbs up, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.